Welcome back to Disability Viewpoints. I'm Mark Hughes. With me today is Joe Nason. Joe, welcome to the show.
Nice to see you, sir.
Nice to see you. And you have a special guest with us today. His name is Jose. I'm going to let you tell the background story, and then we'll proceed from there.
So what we're going to do today is first save people thousands of dollars by helping them understand how they can save money with college costs. And secondly, we're going to introduce someone who is representing America, in my view, at its best.
Right, and at a very young age.
At a very young age.
Good. Well, Jose, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you so much, Mark, for having me.
It's an honor to know you. And why don't you take us from the top? Take us way back to the very beginning.
What I'm really here for is like education, and what really brought me here was education. My mother came to America at the age of 17 with nothing but the clothes in her back.
From where?
Guatemala.
Okay.
3 hours away from the nearest city on a mountainside, economic drought, political corruption. She just understood from a very early age that that was something that she could not pass on to her children. So she moved, packed her things by herself, and had my brother in California, moved over here to St. Paul, Minnesota, had me, and really just leaned into the school system and really put her faith in the fact that education will liberate.
And you were in St. Paul?
Yep, born and raised in the east side of St. Paul. You know, just growing up as an English language learner, as a young person that's dyslexic, as a person that flunked the first grade, my journey with education was very difficult, especially since education was the whole reason my mother came here.
Why was it difficult?
It was really difficult because from an early age, you're really put in a room that's very foreign. It's like I said, I'm an English language learner, so I'm already put in a category from every other young person. Boom, I have dyslexia, so they're talking about these really words I don't understand, disability and special needs, and I'm merged in like I kind of feel like an adult setting.
Did you know the English language from the very beginning, or did you have to pick it up?
My mother actually learned English with me. So my mom only spoke English at the household,
and
practicing.
You learned it in
at schools. So, and actually with watching TV as well, my mom used to joke about just playing the news or playing just the weather and just like hoping that I picked up words. So it was really difficult for my mother having already a firstborn child that did fine in the public school system, but when it came to me, I flunked the first grade. I was jumbled up as a young kid that needs extra care.
So you tried the St. Paul schools.
Absolutely.
Flunked first grade.
Flunked first grade.
Your mom was not very happy about this.
No, yeah, she's very furious, right? She came here for education.
Yeah.
So after a while, she said, let's try the White Bear Lake School District.
Yeah, she's just like, you know what? It has to be your friends, your environment. She places me in an extremely suburban district, White Bear Lake, for my freshman year, thinking that structure and that the change of scenery will really enhance my experience. Mm-hmm. I failed every class but gym, so you knew I at least showed up. Yeah. And it was really an eye-opening moment for me.
What do you feel was the real turning point for you?
I really just become desperate and tell my mom that, I need something completely different, and I need to really be able to actually get my needs met individually. So my mentor, Angel Lee, an amazing entrepreneur, just a artist development coach, she took me under her wing and suggested that I go to high school for recording arts. It is a public charter school in St. Paul. And it was night and day from what I experienced from the district public school.
And this is a classic case of a young man who was not a great reader, had some form of disability, but is a fantastic singer and a fantastic public school speaker. So what happened at High School for Recording Arts, I'm going to ask him to say more about this, is that...
And he can maybe do a quick number for us.
Maybe.
What happened was that they built on his strength. And I would say to the listeners, to all of the people who are considering this program and considering Jose's life, that part of what we need to do, and Jose and I wrote about this recently in a column that was published in the Pioneer Press. The number one thing I would change about public education, whether district or charter in this country, is to have every year youngsters being asked, what are your strengths, what are your skills, what are your interests? And that's what happens at High School for Recording Arts. So yes, we want everybody to be at least a decent reader, but we also want to have schools that develop the skills and the strengths and the interests. And that's what happened to High School for Recording Arts. They didn't start with, what are you bad at? They started out, what are you really interested in?
Can you play the guitar?
Right.
Yeah. Those type of support that you have from the St. Paul School Special Ed Individual Education Plan is that person's roadmap to how they think things are going to develop. And it's pretty accurate.
I agree with you in part.
Yeah, okay.
But in part, having spent more than a decade in the St. Paul schools as a teacher and an administrator, married for 33 years, for 48 years to a woman who was a special ed teacher in St. Paul.
Right.
Sometimes those IEPs are based on the needs and the failures and the deficits. And certainly that needs to be recognized. But what's sometimes not a part of the IEP, and I think urgently needs to be a part of the IEP, is what is this youngster good at? What can we build on? For example.
How do you excel?
For example,
Yeah.
not too far from the studios. We're just off University Avenue here, near Vandalia and University Avenue, was the first home of the St. Paul Open School, a K through 12 public school. And one of the first things that that school did, starting in the fall of 1971, was it had an individual meeting with every youngster and said, what are your interests? What are your skills? What are your talents? And so I would say to anybody who's got an IEP or a parent who's got an IEP, make sure that a part of that IEP process is not only what are the deficits, what are the needs, but what are the skills, what are the interests? And that's what happened at High School for Recording Arts. But High School Recording Arts said, we want to identify you what you're really good at. And at that school, being interested in music was honored and valued.
And it's not about how, this is where we're going, this is how we have to approach this, and this is what you have to do. And the personalized learning plan is the first thing you do when you step into the school building as a new student at High School for Recording Arts, and I think that was a game changer for me.
Doing that?
Doing that.
Okay. Now, you have some people that you mentor yourself. Do you want to talk about that part next?
Yeah, I'd love to. And I'd also just probably before I even talk about that, I wanted to even talk about the platform that High School for Recording Arts gave me with that personalized learning plan. With being an R&B artist and having those curiosities of, wow, I really want to lean into this, they give you the freedom to actually take on, what do you want to learn about? Okay, if I want to align my history classes with the culture of R&B, with the history of Black history, they allowed you to do that and allowed me to turn my artistry into activism and just genuinely unleashed my potential, not because they said these are the jobs we're trying to get young people in.
They opened the gate and let you run.
They just let me run, and they just said, well, this is what you're passionate about. Let's see how fast you can go and how far you're going to go. And they're like, wow, that's actually not a bad sprint, and this is how you can get even farther.
So tell us about the two positions that you held in Ramsey County and City of St. Paul, please.
Yeah, your council.
No, absolutely. I've been so privileged and blessed to have the opportunity to serve in multiple legislative bodies. I'm the youngest appointed official on St. Paul City Council, serving on the Reparations Legislative Advisory Committee. And I am now appointed to the Transforming Systems Together Community Board. And
For Ramsey County.
For Ramsey County, absolutely. And really, like I said, that platform of just genuinely having curiosity, having the passion, having the willingness to want to be curious and serve and actually be indulged in community service and civic engagement actually just gave me the pathway to now build a platform to now be engaged in my community to the highest levels and to actually have that work be started in high school instead of having me to wait until I graduated and wait until I can get an internship, and then maybe when I'm 24 or 25, I can probably try to get some opportunity on a community board. But it's just about letting the young people solve the problems now. It's about giving the young people the toolkits to dismantle the systems that stop our young people from thriving in this amazing economy that's coming and this education system that doesn't reflect its
You know,
need.
Because just last week, in cooperation with Bridgemakers, which is an organization that Jose helped to start, which is a group of youth advocates for getting more justice in the world. So last week, literally, we brought together 40 people from around the state, including some high school students with some form of disability who are currently building houses for people, in some cases building houses for people who are experiencing homelessness.
It's completely moving to actually see that happen.
absolutely.
We had a youngster with a disability and ability, both.
Right.
Absolutely, that part.
From Northeast Metro, who's helped to build a tiny house. Not just theoretically, but he's actually helped to build it.
Yeah.
We had kids from Guadalupe Area Project here in St. Paul who have literally built several homes for low-income people. And literally just this morning, three of us met with a state legislator who's very interested in expanding this concept. But again, these are young people who were not excelling in certain traditional areas of education, but they love, because we had them talking.
Yeah. It was hands-on.
It was hands-on, it was active learning, it was constructive, and some of the young people were young people who had an IEP and some form of disability, but they also had ability. We also have, in Anoka Hennepin School District, youngsters for the last 20 years who've been building 3-bedroom homes. And some of those kids are kids with a disability, but also a lot of ability. One of the places where youngsters are learning construction skills in the Twin Cities is the Finishing Trade Institute, which is a post-secondary options program, which means high school students are now simultaneously earning free college credit and free high school credit, and they're learning construction skills. And this is going on now. It's called the Finishing Trades Institute. It's a post-secondary option program. It's one of a number of programs we've got in this state where high school kids can earn free college credit. And this includes, by the way,
Right.
young people with some form of disability as well as an interest and ability.
I wanted to talk about that piece that you talked to because it really resonated about the disability ability part. Because as a young person, talked about, as if I wasn't in the room. Oh, Jose, he has, he's has some shortcomings, his dyslexia. Oh, he's English language learner. All about, his disabilities. But I really learned that. You're right. It's just like I was over here, but I have a lot of strengths.
To the end, I want
No.
to ask Jose to just say briefly what he's working on now.
Yeah.
Because he's leading young people.
Yeah.
Please.
Absolutely. So right now, I'm leading an initiative called Breaking the School to Prison Pipeline by elevating youth voice through student-centered learning. So essentially, I have a group of 8 to 10 young people, ages 10 to 18, and they have a lot of experience, juvenile justice experience, either being taking a stand at the court in middle school or having private, public, charter school experience, student-centered learning experience, and public district school experience. We all just came together trying to recognize what worked for us, what made us feel great, and what should school be doing. People with the most area to grow, that's just a huge potential and opportunity to have somebody that may have been in a deficit really just uplifted and to do great work, like policing our streets. And who do you want policing our streets? Somebody that's actually experienced the justice system and actually has been in handcuffs and understands the interaction between a police officer and a young person, or somebody that's went to 2 years of college and got some boot camp training. And
Right.
we're actively doing the work to get student-centered learning in every classroom, because we understand that student-centered learning is the theory to break the school to prison pipeline, and really focusing this work on middle school area, because young people so often we wait for young people to just fall off the cliff and to become a statistic and to need to heal from trauma, when we really need to catch them at the early stages. And that middle school is such an explosive age that we need to be putting so much time, attention, and care to our future and to our now, that they deserve the greatest education that they can receive. And I believe that to be student-centered learning and a learner-centered ecosystem. So that's really what I've been working on in tandem of justice system leaders, in tandem of youth with that lived experience. And as somebody that personally has had their life saved by student-centered learning and has had the school to prison pipeline broken by this.
Great. Anything else you want to say we might have missed?
I guess what I just want to say, Mark, is to underline that here is a young person whose mother comes here at age 17, 17, whose father was deported. His father was deported, had an IEP, was classified as not able to read real well, dyslexic, didn't speak English, went to schools, and he has turned himself into something remarkable because, in part, he's got an amazing mother, and in part, he's got an amazing person himself, and in part because he was able to find a school which said, let's build on the strengths.